Chapter 554. The divine tribulation had appeared in God's county. Si Huangtian was indeed a true supreme emperor who fought against the heavens and the earth. He had once unified an entire plane. The divine tribulation covered the sky and covered the earth. His golden bloodline erupted and shook the mountains and rivers. He soared into the sky and directly resisted the divine tribulation. Chao Wanjun and Shen Kongxiao's faces were pale. They knew that if they didn't serve him well today, they would definitely be unlucky. Even if Si Wuxie didn't settle the score with them, Lu Zhantian would. After what they did today, even if they were swallowed up by other counties, the prefecture lord wouldn't say a word. Shen Kongxiao found Shen Kongxue. With a strange expression, he pretended to be pitiful and said, "Shui, I have mistreated you all these years. Please don't blame me." Shen Kongxue looked at her father weakly and kept retreating. She didn't dare to look at him directly. Today's matter was because she helped Si Wuxie contact Lu Zhantian. According to Shen Kongxiao's temper in the past, he would definitely beat her to death today. "Daughter, I don't dare to blame you. 'Tis yours. I have been living quite well. I have enough to eat and warm clothes. Much better than many people." Shen Kongxue said softly. "Shui, tell me. Who is the Lord Yi that Wuxie knows? Why don't I remember there being anyone with the surname Yi in God Mu estate? And how did Wuxie and the rest know Lord Lu Zhantian?" Until now, Shen Kongxiao still didn't understand how he offended people and who exactly he offended. Shen Kongxue was confused. She didn't know how to answer her father. "Little Shui, you must save your father. Only you can save our clan now. Although Lu Zhantian and 7th Princess said they wouldn't punish us for offending them, they have so many followers. There will definitely be people who will do things for them secretly. When that time comes, it's possible that they will kill our entire clan. You must tell me the truth. Only then will I have a countermeasure." Shen Kongxiao knelt down and cried. It seemed like he was really frightened by Lu Zhantian's prestige. Shen Kongxue was also shocked. She knelt down and explained, "Father, I didn't mean to harm you. Last night, Brother Wuxie suddenly said that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were his master and senior sister. He asked me to help contact them. That was why I asked cousin to help. I didn't know they knew Lord Lu Zhantian. Father, please punish me." Boom. Shen Kongxiao immediately sprawled on the ground. As a county god, how could he not know that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi had become famous overnight after a great battle? Yi Qinghan had even defeated the god slayers. Now, Yi Qinghan's status could be compared to the sect leaders of some large sections. He was not someone a county god of a small city like Shen Kongxiao could treat. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi are Wu Xie's master and senior sister? How is this possible? How is this possible? Shen Kongxiao felt like he was going crazy. He had kicked an iron plate, and the iron plate was burning red. They had already offended Lu Zhantian, and now they had offended Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. How could they survive in the future? "Shui, you have to save the family. I really have no other way, only you can save him. You have the best relationship with Wu Xie. Go beg him. No, marry him. Even if you become a servant, our family will have a bright future. We don't have to worry about the revenge of the strong clans." Shen Kongxiao said anxiously. Shen Kongxiao still did not know that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were the ones who had snatched Medusa from under their noses. Otherwise, if he knew, who knew how big of a storm it would cause? The bounty for Medusa had been issued by the god nation. Even the divine Mushan residents could not cover it up. Shen Kongxiao knew that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi had saved Medusa, so he had something to use against them. Shen Kongxue trembled. Looking at Shen Kongxiao's crazy eyes, she did not dare to reject his request. At this moment, Si Wuxie was still very careful. He did not dare to trust Shen Kongxiao. Shen Kongxiao brought Shen Kongxue to Si Wuxie's courtyard. The two of them knelt down on the spot. Si Wuxie hurriedly pulled Shen Kongxue up, but kept a respectful distance from Shen Kongxiao. He was not willing to say anything. Shen Kongxiao signaled to Shen Kongxue. The frightening light in his eyes made Shen Kongxue not dare to object. Following Shen Kongxiao's instructions, she knelt in front of Si Wuxie and said respectfully, Brother Wuxie, I want to marry you. Can I? Si Wuxie raised his eyebrows and looked at the delicate Shin Kongxue. She was not a top-grade beauty, but she was kind-hearted. He did like her a lot, but he did not want to marry her. Moreover, Shin Kongxue looked like she was forced by Shin Kongxiao and was not willing. Brother Wuxie, I know you have a respectable status now, and little Shui is not worthy of you. However, if I don't marry you, the family will definitely suffer the revenge of the strong. I don't want anything to happen to father and the rest. If you don't like little Shui, you can also take me as a concubine. Shen Kongxue knelt on the ground again. No matter how Si Wuxie pulled her, she did not dare to get up. Si Wuxie frowned and looked at Shin Kongxiao. He knew that he was the one behind this and could not help but feel even more disgusted. Shin Kongxiao, what are you trying to do? Little Shui is your daughter. How can you use her to make a deal? Si Wuxie glared at Shin Kongxiao furiously and berated him. Shin Kongxiao smiled bitterly and said helplessly, Wuxie, you don't understand the mythological dimension. Because of you, I have offended Lord Lu Zhantian and the seventh princess. I have also offended your master and senior sister. Stan Emperor Tian couldn't control his anger as he threatened coldly. Master wouldn't say such things to me. You can attack and shout in pain. I'm not human. Si Wuxie directly dragged Shin Kongxue outside. You're courting death. Si Tianjin was furious. In his world, there was no one else's will, only his own will. Si Wuxie had thoroughly infuriated him. Boom! Stan Emperor Tian waved his hand and grabbed Si Wuxie's neck without any mercy. If this attack hit, it would smash through Si Wuxie's head. No! Boom. Pooed Shin Kongxiao didn't dare to let Stan Emperor Tian kill Si Wuxie. In a hurry, he circulated 30% of his strength and clashed with Stan Emperor Tian. His physical body was completely suppressed by Stan Emperor Tian's bloodline and was sent flying by a palm strike. Even Si Wuxie was sent flying. Si Wuxie, Shin Kongxiao, and Shin Kongxue rolled on the ground and coughed up blood. Stan Emperor, are you crazy? It's not a big deal for a child to be willful. Do you have to be so ruthless? Shin Kongxiao suddenly realized that he wasn't vicious enough. The vicious one was Stan Emperor Tian. If this person became the overlord, no one in his territory would dare to speak up. Otherwise, they would all be killed. I'd rather not have such a descendant. Get lost. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't I know that you were going to attack when I was condensing the divine lattice? Stan Emperor Tian said coldly. Shen Kongxiao's mouth twitched. He could only please one person now. He chose Si Wuxie. After all, Si Wuxie was Yi Qinghan's disciple. That was before. This is now. Si Wuxie is willing to die for you, but you're forcing your will on him. In my opinion, it's because he doesn't want an old ancestor like you, right? If you want to kill Si Wuxie, shouldn't you ask for Lord Ye's opinion? Shen Kongxiao acted like a loyal protector and stood in front of Si Wuxie. I want to kill my descendant. Let alone Yi Qinghan, no one can stop me. Stan Emperor Tian's aura exploded. His golden battle blood boiled and roared in the sky. His aura alone forced Shen Kongxiao to retreat continuously. The veteran god priest's full strength was actually inferior to Stan Emperor Tian's aura. Boom! Chao Wanjun also rushed out and joined forces with Shen Kongxiao to resist Stan Emperor Tian's aura. However, the two of them were still no match for him and were forced to retreat. Shen Kongshue's face was pale, and he kept coughing out blood. He looked at Stan Emperor Tian as though he was a mortal looking at a supreme god. He couldn't look at him directly and couldn't be blasphemed. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. My descendant must listen to me. Stan Emperor Tian shouted furiously. He raised his hand and formed a giant hand. It descended from the sky and caused the ground to cave in. Kacha, Shen Kongshue's body was crushed and his bones were shattered. He kept coughing out blood. Boom! The two god priests joined forces and charged into the sky, wanting to block Stan Emperor Tian's aura. The three of them clashed, and the repercussions shattered mountains and rivers. All the strong martial artists in God's county's sphere of influence were shaken until they coughed out blood and fainted. Shen Kongshao and Chao Wanjun only understood after exchanging one move with Stan Emperor Tian. Stan Emperor Tian's vital energy and blood were vigorous to the extreme. An unstoppable force entered their bodies through their arms. They lost control of their divine power and almost fainted. Their bodies fell from the sky. Stan Wuxie carried Shen Kongshue and did a flip, escaping from the center of the battlefield. He looked at Stan Emperor Tian's terrifying eyes with an embarrassed expression and didn't know what to do. "I don't need a rebellious descendant." Stan Emperor Tian shouted furiously and waved his giant hand to slash across the sky. What? The giant hand collapsed the sky. Stan Emperor Tian displayed the power he had back then and wanted to suppress the two god priests and Stan Wuxie with one palm. What? At the end of the void, the sound of a zither rang out and penetrated thousands of miles. It was as though it came from the endless chaos, causing Stan Emperor Tian to be stunned. Immediately after, there was a slash that pierced through the sky and slashed at the giant hand formed by Stan Emperor Tian. Instantly, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The repercussions all surged upward, and none of them went towards Stan Wuxie. "Why are you so agitated, Brother Huang Tian? Children need to be guided and not forced. They can't be killed just because they don't listen to you. Moreover, he's my disciple. You can't decide his life." A low voice reverberated through thousands of miles of God's county. The domineering aura surpassed Stan Emperor Tian as though a true god had descended. Chapter 556. Yi Qinghan held the 7-foot crazed maniac in his hand while Emperor Yi held the divine zither on his shoulder. He descended from the sky and floated over. His domineering aura stared coldly at Stan Huang Tian. His deep voice carried a will that could support the heavens and was irrefutable. Stan Huang Tian and Yi Qinghan were the same type of people. They were domineering, but Yi Qinghan was not like him, a stubborn madman. His own son had to live according to his will. "I can't make decisions for your disciple. My blood flows in his body. I can do whatever I want. Yi Qinghan, don't go overboard. Do you know how to teach your disciple? Half of the responsibility for teaching such a rebellious disciple and Wu Xie becoming like this is because of you." Stan Huang Tian reprimanded coldly. "Is he rebellious, or do you not know how to conduct yourself? He has his own soul. Does he need your permission to do anything? Do you want a son or a puppet?" Yi Qinghan asked coldly. "I'm doing it for his own good." Stan Huang Tian was stubborn and could not see his mistake. "Bullshit. You're doing it for your own good. Do you think I don't know what's going on in your head?" Yi Qinghan was also angry and directly cursed. "Yi Qinghan, who do you think you are? When I became emperor, your ancestors weren't even born yet. What right do you have to teach me a lesson?" Stan Huang Tian was furious and radiated killing intent. "If it weren't for your sacrifice for the human race, I would definitely beat you up today." Stan Huang Tian, the emperor back then, was indeed worthy of respect, but it doesn't mean that you can control everyone's will. The people of the world are not your puppets, and Wu Xie is not your personal property. If you don't change your outdated views, you will have no one to rely on in your old age. Yi Qinghan retorted without backing down. When two domineering men met, there was bound to be a conflict. "You want to teach me a lesson? Today, I want to see how a junior will teach me a lesson." Stan Emperor's aura erupted. His golden battle aura was unstoppable as it pressed down on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's black hair fluttered as he stared coldly at the Stan Emperor sky. His aura grew stronger and stronger as he pushed back step by step. One had the golden bloodline and the other had the 5 elements Tao body. Their auras suppressed the heavens. Even an experienced god like Shen Kongshao couldn't withstand it and kept retreating. Emperor Yi was expressionless as he stretched out his hand to take Shen Kongshue and see Wuxie away. He looked at the battlefield from afar. "Open! Scram!" Stan Huangqian's fist tore through the void and opened up space. His fist emitted a golden glow as it blasted towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath, and the 5 elements gathered in his right fist. Dragon blood roared, and the azure dragon arm burst forth with terrifying power. Veins popped out all over his body, and his body tilted slightly to the side. His fist punched out from the back, and he charged toward the Stan imperial sky with the force of a thunderbolt. He was fighting force with force, and there was no need for him to use any divine arts. Kacha! The tip of Yi Qinghan's feet crushed the ground. He twisted his waist, and the inch strike increased his strength by tenfold. Boom! Kacha! There was a loud sound followed by the crisp sound of bones breaking. It was so loud that it broke everyone's eardrums. Ah! A mournful scream pierced through the void, and Stan Huangdan flew backward continuously. His feet crushed the ground, and he couldn't stabilize his body at all. From his fist to his chest, the bones broke inch by inch. Golden blood splattered and dyed the land red. Stan Huangtian didn't even manage to catch his breath. He spat out a big mouthful of essence blood and retreated several hundred steps before he could stabilize his body. Yi Qinghan slowly retracted and didn't retreat an inch. His battle robe fluttered, and his black hair pierced through the void. There wasn't a hint of joy in his cold eyes, and he didn't even have any emotions. Shen Kongshao took in a cold breath as he looked at the backs of Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. He suddenly recalled their identities. They were the Medusa that they had snatched away from him. Impossible. How many years has it been? Yi Qinghan was only at the Arch Realm back then. This is impossible. Shen Kongshao was terrified as if he was afraid of something. Chao Wanjun also recognized them. His face was ashen, and he felt uneasy. He had a bad feeling. The two of them looked at each other, and Shen Kongshao asked with a hoarse voice transmission, "Do you think they can still remember us?" Medusa's arrest warrant has not been revoked. This means that they didn't hand Medusa over, and we know the truth. Will they kill us to silence us? Chao Wanjun's face was filled with fear. Stan Huangtian was already very strong and domineering, but he couldn't even take one punch from Yi Qinghan. If they were to face Yi Qinghan again, even if there were 10 god priests, they wouldn't be a match for Yi Qinghan. Moreover, there was still Emperor Yi who could kill Lu Zhantian in an instant. What should we do? We will die. Chao Wanjun didn't know what to do. He didn't know that the two terrifying youths who appeared recently were Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi, whom he met a few years ago. Let's wait first. They might have already forgotten about us. Besides, with Shue's relationship, Yi Qinghan might not kill us. Shen Kongshao could only pray like this. Otherwise, even if they escaped, they wouldn't be able to escape from Emperor Ye's grasp. Stan Huangtan was shocked and even angrier. He didn't expect that he would lose. Moreover, he lost in his strongest physical body. His entire right arm was only left with white bones. Chapter 557. It was unknown whether Stan Huangtian cared about the golden bloodline or Stan Wuxia. He immediately erupted and wanted to fight Yi Qinghan to the death. Yi Qinghan sneered in disdain. You don't even care about his life. Do you still care about his golden bloodline? Or do you only care about his bloodline and not his life? He inherited my bloodline. He can die, but he can't lose his bloodline. Stan Huangtian said selfishly. He is my disciple. He can lose his bloodline, but he can't die. Stan Huangtian, from today onwards, I will cripple his golden bloodline and strip away his origin. Stan Wuxia has nothing to do with you. If you dare to hurt him again, you will be my enemy. I can only kill my enemies. If you don't believe me, you can try and see if I have the ability to kill you. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse and cold. It was filled with ruthlessness. Previously, he still had respect for Stan Huangtian. Now, that good impression was gone. Stan Huangtian felt Yi Qinghan's killing intent and his aura stagnated. Master, I don't want the golden bloodline. I can still reach the peak. Stan Wuxia said firmly. Then bear with it. Yi Qinghan directly tore apart Stan Wuxia's body and mobilized the water origin. He instantly drained Stan Wuxia's blood and suppressed his soul in the depths of the sea of bitterness. The wood origin protected his soul. The fire origin instantly burned all of Stan Wuxia's golden bloodline and ignited a monstrous fire. This happened in an instant. Stan Huangtian couldn't stop it at all. Stan Huangtian glared angrily at Yi Qinghan. This was an unbearable insult. His son, his proudest bloodline, was actually destroyed by Yi Qinghan like trash. Stan Huangtian, watch carefully. Wuxia no longer has the golden bloodline. He will use my mortal blood to forge a golden body. Yi Qinghan drained Stan Wuxia's blood and crippled his golden bloodline. He directly forced out a drop of blood and injected it into him. He mobilized the 5 elements and took the initiative to help Stan Wuxia create new blood. Although the golden bloodline was crippled, he obtained the 5 elements Dao body. The powerful ability to produce blood allowed him to instantly recover. The powerful fire origin destroyed his physical body, completely severing his connection with the golden bloodline. The dragon blood roared. The fire origin destroyed his flesh and blood and rapidly reformed his golden body. Stan Wuxia twitched in pain. His soul twisted. He wanted to scream but couldn't. Although Stan Huangtian was furious, he did not sneak an attack on Yi Qinghan. Firstly, he could not get over it. Although he was selfish, he was more conceited and did not wish to sneak attack others. Secondly, he really did not dare to sneak an attack on Yi Qinghan. Once he did, he would become an enemy that would not rest until one of them was dead. There was no need for him to form an ugly alliance with Yi Qinghan. Although he was conceited, he was not an idiot. At this moment, Emperor Yi had saved Shen Kongxue. He turned to look at Chao Wanjun and Shen Kongxiao, and his expression couldn't help but be stunned. He recognized the 2 of them as the people who had intercepted and killed Medusa back then. Thumped at seeing Emperor Yi's stunned expression, the 2 of them felt their hearts skip a beat. They knew that Emperor Yi had also recognized them. Their faces turned ashen as they retreated. Sir, we didn't tell anyone. We promise that no third person will know that she is with you. Shen Kongxiao pleaded in fear. Sush. Emperor Yi hugged the Emperor's Guqin and stared at the 2 of them. He didn't want to leave behind any future troubles regarding Medusa. Moreover, once Medusa's identity was exposed, it would not only attract the experts from Divine Mu residence. The experts from the other 56 residences would also descend. The crazy sect would not be able to escape this calamity. Is that so? Then why are you retreating? Emperor Yi asked coldly. Shen Kongxiao wanted to cry but had no tears. He realized that he had been extremely unlucky recently. Right now, he wished that Emperor Yi was not the person who had kidnapped Medusa. Now that he knew, he had brought a fatal disaster upon himself. If you dare to attack me, I will tell you where she is right now. If you have the ability, you can wipe out the entire city. Chao Wanjun roared. He was so scared by Emperor Yi that he was driven to desperation. He wanted to fight to the death. However, Emperor Yi suddenly plucked the strings of the Guqin. The sound of the Guqin turned into a sharp divine weapon and directly slit his throat. Countless melodies exploded in his mind. Hum hum hum. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Emperor Yi's reaction was too fast. His 10 fingers slid across the Guqin and instantly killed Chao Wanjun. Before the divinity could escape, it was suppressed by Emperor Yi and thrown into his universe ring. Boom! Shen Kongxiao fell to the ground and looked at Emperor Yi in fear. He didn't dare to escape and didn't dare to anger Emperor Yi. Please, for the sake of Wu Xie and Shui, spare my life. I really didn't tell anyone. Shen Kongxiao said helplessly. Emperor Yi looked at Shen Kongxue. Shen Kongxue didn't know why Shen Kongxiao was so afraid of Emperor Yi and thought it was because of Si Wu Xie. She hurriedly begged, Sir, please spare my father. He only attacked brother Wu Xie because he was confused for a moment. Emperor Yi frowned. Unless Wu Xie could cut off his relationship with Shen Kongxue, killing Shen Kongxue's father would always be flawed. It would also affect the relationship between Wu Xie and Shen Kongxue. Therefore, he was a little hesitant. At this moment, Lu Zhantian stepped on a golden dragon and held Mu Shaoqi's hand as they rushed over from afar. It seemed like they came out with Yi Qinghan. It was just that they were left far behind by Yi Qinghan. The powerful dragon's aura intimidated God-punishing city, suppressing everyone so much that they didn't dare to show their faces. The streets were dead silent. Everyone was hiding in their rooms like a ghost city. Everyone in the God Manor had fled. There were only a few people left within a radius of 1,000 meters. Lu Zhantian landed on the street. His handsome and strong face was still pale. He didn't have any battle strength, but his aura made Shen Kongxiao unable to breathe. It was as if he had met the Manor Lord. It made him feel helpless, but it also made him see hope for survival. What? Shen Kongxiao hurriedly crawled and rushed to Lu Zhantian. He knelt on the ground and said loudly, "Sir, I have important information to report to you. I beg you to save my life." Mu Shaoqi stood in front of Lu Zhantian and frowned. "What information? Who wants to kill you?" Emperor Yi was instantly shocked. It was too late to kill Shen Kongxiao now. He couldn't kill Lu Zhantian and Mu Shaoqi together, right? "It's me who wants to kill him." Emperor Yi walked over quickly and stared at Lu Zhantian and Mu Shaoqi. His fingers plucked the strings of his guqin. The sound of the guqin was loud and covered the sound transmission between heaven and earth. He didn't want Shen Kongxiao to shout and tell her what happened back then, forcing her to massacre the city. Lu Zhantian said to Mu Shaoqi hoarsely, "Kill him. Don't listen to any information." Mu Shaoqi was stunned. She didn't understand why Lu Zhantian would make such a choice. The information that could make Shen Kongxiao so agitated was obviously very important. Even if it wasn't, it wouldn't be too late to kill him after he finished speaking. However, Lu Zhantian saw Mu Shaoqi's hesitation and took advantage of the fact that Shen Kongxiao didn't have time to speak to summon his spear. It pierced through the void and directly pierced through Shen Kongxiao's head. The spear even pierced through his godhead. Shen Kongxiao's corpse fell to the ground with a loud crash. He no longer had the chance to speak. Lu Zhantian used too much force and directly spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His face was extremely pale and devoid of color. Mu Shaoqi reprimanded softly, "You clearly know that you're heavily injured and can't use force, so why did you insist on doing it? It wouldn't be too late to let me kill him after he finished speaking." However, Lu Zhantian shook his head and said, "Knowing a friend's fatal secret won't do us any good. It'll only make things difficult for fellow Taoist Yi. The best choice is to let some things go with the wind." Emperor Yi nodded gratefully. Lu Zhantian's choice was the most correct. If the two of them knew about Medusa, she really wouldn't know how to handle it. Chapter 558. Stan Wuxia's body was remolded and his bloodline was reborn. He used the 5 elements body to replace the golden bloodline. The 5 elements body exuded a different aura. It was completely different from the golden bloodline. Stan Huangtian's eyes widened. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so ruthless. He directly changed Wuxia's bloodline. He was extremely willful. Yi Qinghan released Wuxia's soul and allowed him to regain control of his body. Stan Wuxia shook his body gently. Although he did not have the golden bloodline, his combat power did not decrease. Instead, it increased by a lot. "Brother Stan, you can take over the God's County. Take it as my compensation. In the future, you and I will have nothing to do with each other. Wuxia and you will have nothing to do with each other. It is up to you whether you are friend or foe," Yi Qinghan said coldly. Stan Huangtian's mouth twitched. He watched as Yi Qinghan brought Wuxia away. He suddenly aged a little. Especially when he saw Wuxia's determined back view, his face darkened. Shen Kongxue watched as her father was pierced by Lu Zhantian's spear. Even his godhead was destroyed. She was dumbfounded and did not know what to do. Lu Zhantian was a high and mighty god. Even if all the experts in the God's County attacked him together, they would not be enough to kill him, let alone Shen Kongxue. Shen Kongxue turned to look at Stan Wuxia helplessly. She muttered. She did not have deep feelings for the Shen Kong clan. Her mother was a servant and had a low status. Even if she gave birth to Shen Kongxue, her status was not as high as some old stewards. The direct descendants of the Shen Kong clan were not friendly to her. Once Shen Kongxiao died, she would have nothing to do with the Shen Kong clan. Wuxia understood Shen Kongxue's situation and said, "This is my master and senior sister. Why are you not greeting them?" Shen Kongxue quickly bowed to Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi and said, "Shen Kongxue greets the 2 lords. Get up. I want to kill your father for other reasons. It is not because he bullied Wuxia. He and Chao Wanjun will definitely die. I cannot leave him alive," Emperor Yi explained calmly. It would be best if Shen Kongxue could accept it. If not, there was nothing she could do. Senior sister, there is no need to worry. Although Xiao Shui and Shen Kong Xiao are related, we are not related, Wuxia said quickly. Emperor Yi nodded and did not say anything else. Yi Qinghan glanced at Lu Zhantian and smiled. Many thanks for Brother Lu's help. Brother Yi, there is no need. I'm never interested in things that I shouldn't know. Lu Zhantian calmly said. Mu Xiaoqi was a little embarrassed. After Lu Zhantian's words, she realized that she had handled the matter incorrectly. Compared to her, a princess with no life experience, a veteran soldier knew a lot more. While the few of them were talking, the small team sent by Lu Zhantian had also arrived at God's County City. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and took out 5 elemental divinities. He said to Wuxia, Wuxia, bring Shen Kongxue, her mother, and Shen Kongquan's family to the insane sect. After settling down, cultivate for a while and control the 5 elements body. These are the 5 elements divinities. When the time is right, condense them. Do not be impatient. Wuxia accepted the divinities gratefully and bowed. Thank you, Master. I am going to travel with your senior sister. Your uncle masters are all in seclusion to cultivate and stabilize their divinities. I will leave the insane sect to you and Wutin. Someone will help you deal with it, Yi Qinghan instructed. Yes, Master. I will take my leave. Wuxia pulled Shen Kongshui to her residence and brought Shen Kongquan's family and Shen Kongshui's mother away. She then followed the team to Xianyu County's Xixia Mountain. Yi Qinghan's group of 4 walked outside God's County, looking at the world's scenery and comprehending the mythical plane. Lu Zhantian had been fighting in the army all year round and had never traveled before. At this moment, he was walking slowly with Mu Xiaoqi on a small path. His state of mind had changed a little. His soul was exceptionally calm, and the bottleneck that he had not broken through for many years had loosened. Mu Xiaoqi was purely a princess. Every time she went out, she would have a bunch of guards. At this moment, she was very relaxed. With Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi here, unless a prefecture lord came personally, no one could kill Mu Xiaoqi in front of the 2 of them. The prefecture lord was particularly relieved. The biggest city in the Mu Divine Estate is the Mu King County. The most prosperous city is the Yunhai County. I'll take you to the Yunhai County first. It has the most god worshippers there. It's the most prosperous place. Every year, there's a trade fair. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures often appear in the auction. Many god worshippers go there because of its reputation. Mu Xiaoqi was the most familiar with the Mu Divine Estate. Lu Zhantian and Yi Qinghan were very interested. They both needed heavenly treasures. It was obviously useless for the gods to cultivate bitterly. The 4 of them were not in a hurry. Lu Zhantian finally recovered. Emperor Yi even played the guqin along the way to help him recuperate. After half a month, the 4 of them finally arrived at Yunhai County at the edge of the Eastern Sea. The sea and the sky were connected here. Clouds and mist drifted about. It was like a fairyland, hence the name Yunhai County. The 4 of them did not want to expose their identities. They put away the god-slaying eagle and dragon god far away from the city and walked toward Yunhai County's capital city. The man was as handsome as jade and was incomparably vigorous. The woman was unparalleled in her generation. Even if she tried to hide it a little, it was still hard not to notice. Lu Zhantian's injuries were 50 to 60% better. His complexion was slightly better, but he still looked like a sickly young master. The 4 of them walked side by side into the city. To avoid trouble, Emperor Yi and Mu Xiaoqi even put on a veil. As soon as they entered the city, they found out that Yunhai County was even more lively than Mu Shen Estate's capital city. Many people were famous figures in Mu Shen Estate. Experts were as common as clouds, and gods were everywhere. Most of the gods were adventurers, but there were also some disciples of sections. They were rich young masters who spent lavishly and never worried about divine crystals. The gathering of these people was a different story. Let's go to Taobao Street. That's the world of adventurers. They sell all kinds of things. Some of them look useless but are actually ancient divine weapons. Some of them look very valuable but are actually useless. That's why people call that place Taobao. Everything depends on luck. Let's try our luck. Mu Xiaoqi was familiar with the place. She led the three of them forward quickly. After a few turns, they arrived at an ancient road. The buildings on both sides of the road were filled with the vicissitudes of history and traces of time. No one knew how long they had been passed down. The divine bird that had been sleeping for a long time was awakened by the aura here. It opened its eyes in confusion. Its bright light scanned the depths and rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body. This divine bird seems to have smelled a divine item that intoxicates me. It's as if it was born waiting for the all-beast divine emperor to come and pluck it. The divine bird took a deep breath and spread its wings. Its eyes were blurred, and its expression was amusing. Yi Qinghan sneered. This bird would not wake up early if there were no benefits. A few days ago, it swallowed a piece of godhood and had been sleeping until now. Looking at its appearance, it had advanced to the 11th grade and could be considered a true divine bird. Chapter 559. Taobao Street was packed with people. Almost all of them were lesser gods. They were as numerous as the hairs on a cow. It was as if all the gods in God Mu estate were gathered here. There were all kinds of shops, and the names were very eye-catching. The 2 rows of ancient trees in front of the shops were occupied by adventurers who couldn't afford to buy a shop. Everyone had a stall in front of them. There were all kinds of strange things on display. People were constantly discussing them. Most of the things weren't expensive, but they weren't anything good. Many people were speculators. They could earn a dozen divinity crystals by selling a fake, which was much more than what they could get from adventuring. Come and have a look. These divine objects were all excavated by me from ancient tombs. They have hundreds of thousands of years of history. They are valuable and can be collected and studied. Don't miss them. These are the latest treasures. There are superior divine arts, ancient divine arts, divine weapons, and everything. Open your eyes and take a good look. Such hawking was incessant. Many of the gods were very familiar with the words. This wasn't the first time they came out to make a living. The gods were able to get to where they were today because they didn't want to be bound by their sections. They would rather be independent cultivators and live a carefree life. However, life in the mythology dimension wasn't so easy. The priests had all become wily old foxes. Deceit had become their second nature, making use of human nature to take advantage of loopholes. They would disguise some items that weren't that valuable as ancient divine items, packaging them as divine items that had just been unearthed and selling them. However, there were also professional tomb robbers and treasure hunters who found treasures but couldn't use them. They could only sell them. Unfortunately, there were too many fake goods, so they couldn't raise the price. Life was very difficult. Sometimes, a real treasure couldn't be sold for a long time. In the end, they themselves doubted the value of these things and had to lower the price to sell them. Yi Qinghan and the others walked on both sides of the street and glanced at these things. If they liked them, they would start bargaining. These things were expensive for hundreds of divinity crystals. The cheap ones could be bought for only a few top-grade spirit crystals. The divine bird woke up and no longer needed Mu Xiaoqi to lead the way. However, many people could recognize the spirit-devouring divine parrot. They knew it was a treasure hunter, so it was unusually low-key. It squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and transmitted its voice to guide the way. Go forward, go forward. There was a treasure. Quick, 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 someone is going to buy it, the divine bird said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan increased his speed. Emperor Yi, Lu Zhantian, and the other 2 followed behind him. They watched as he stopped in front of a middle-aged man. There were quite a few people surrounding the man's stall. It seemed like this stall really did have some treasures. Yi Qinghan stared at a metal box in the hands of a rich young master. However, there were no gaps at all. It was completely sealed shut. Furthermore, the box was abnormally sturdy. Even divine weapons could not destroy it. Even if there were no treasures or divine items inside, this box was still very valuable. At the very least, it could be smelted and reforged into divine weapons. That's it. There are good things inside, but this damn box can actually block my divine sense. This divine bird can't see what's inside. The divine bird transmitted. The rich young man holding the box was also hesitating. He kept turning the box over and sizing it up. he discovered that there were actually a few divine flowers carved on the box. On top of the divine flowers was a divine dragon. It was very lifelike. "Young master, I found this box in the periphery of God Extinction Mountain. I can't open this box. Even if I used divine weapons to forcefully hack at it, I couldn't leave a single mark on it. Therefore, I had no choice but to sell it. It's worth 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals. If you like it, then take it." The burly man had a scar on his face. Even as a lower god priest, he couldn't heal it. It could be seen that he was injured by a very terrifying divine weapon. He was a true adventurer. He even dared to go to the periphery of God Extinction Mountain. This boldness was not something an ordinary person could possess. God Extinction Mountain was an ancient battlefield. It was located in the southeast of Divine Mu Estate. Back when Divine Mu Estate still didn't exist, several fierce battles had occurred there. The entire mountain range was razed to the ground. There was no life left. In the end, that place became an ominous place. Even experts like the estate master didn't want to go there. Those who entered God Extinction Mountain would definitely encounter misfortune within 100 years. If it was light, they would be heavily injured. If it was heavy, their soul would scatter. Of course, this was only a legend. However, the more mysterious the legend, the more experts would believe it. Therefore, the interior of God Extinction Mountain became a true place of extinction. There were fragments of divine tools everywhere. There were also quite a few universe rings. However, no one dared to go into search for treasures. Lu Zhantian frowned. If this box was really found in the periphery of God Extinction Mountain, then 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals wouldn't be too expensive. That was because it might really be a supreme treasure left behind by an archaic divine priest. However, if it wasn't something that came from God Extinction Mountain, then this thing might only be worth a few mid-grade divine crystals. "Fellow Taoist, I don't even know the true origin of this thing. Asking for 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals is too expensive. I can only give you 30%. 300. If you sell it, then I'll buy it. Even if there's no supreme treasure inside, this box can at least be worth a few mid-grade divine crystals. I won't lose too much. How about it?" The young man in embroidered clothes said in a deep voice. The burly man's eyes narrowed. His killing intent was instantly released. However, he was someone who made a living after all. He quickly suppressed his temper and said in a muffled voice, "These things were exchanged with my life. I'm not an opportunist who casually takes out something to make up the price. 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals. If you want to buy it, then buy it. If you don't want to sell it, then forget it." The young man in embroidered clothes seemed to be the opportunist. He looked for treasures and then sold them. He was also very insightful. He felt that this box was indeed a treasure, but he couldn't be sure if this box was worth more than 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals. Therefore, he didn't dare to take the risk. He always wanted to lower the price. He put down the box and pretended to leave. However, just as he turned around, Yi Qinghan directly grabbed the box and threw out 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals. He didn't even talk about the price. He was so forthright that the burly man in the booth was a little stunned. 1,000. Count it yourself, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. The burly man immediately laughed and said, "Fellow Taoist is forthright. I like it. If there's anything you like, you can buy some more. I'll give you some other small things. They're all obtained from my adventures. Although I can't tell the price, they're definitely worth more than the fake goods that those opportunists make." The young man in embroidered clothes saw that the deal was done. He glared at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Fellow Taoist, you've gone too far. I didn't say I didn't want it. What right do you have to pay for it? We all saw that you put down the box and turned around to leave. It's too late to regret now. The box already belongs to Brother Yi. If you want to buy it, you have to ask Brother Yi the price. What's the point of speaking so rudely?" Mu Xiaoqi raised her eyebrows and asked, "I just turned around to get the divine crystals. I didn't say I didn't want this box. What? You want to bully me with your numbers? Why don't you ask how long I've been in Yunhai County? Who dares to not give me face?" The young man's eyes flashed fiercely as he threatened sternly. The burly man's face darkened. He was somewhat dissatisfied with the young man's actions. However, he didn't dare to offend the person in front of him. He was a relative of the Yunhai County's county god. He relied on this identity to earn hundreds of thousands of gold coins on Taobao Street. He was terrifyingly powerful. If he offended him, he wouldn't be able to survive here in the future. Then what do you want? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. Chapter 560. Then what do you want? Yi Qinghan looked at the young man calmly and asked in a low voice. What do I want? Kid, is this your first time in Yunhai County? How dare you provoke me? The young man said coldly. How did I provoke you? You put down the box and left. Don't tell me you won't allow me to buy it? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. You want to reason with me? Kid, it seems like this is your first time here. The young man mocked. Slap. Yi Qinghan raised his hand and slapped the young man to the ground. The young man's face hit the ground, and even the stone floor was shattered. The young man's face was badly mutilated, and his teeth were scattered all over the ground. Since you don't like to reason with me, then you can talk with me with your fists. After Yi Qinghan finished speaking, he raised his leg and kicked the young man more than 10 meters away. He turned around and continued to look at the stall, looking for treasures that he liked. Yi Qinghan's actions stunned the surrounding people. They had never seen such a domineering man. He acted swiftly and decisively, and he beat the young man up just like that. The burly man was also shocked by Yi Qinghan. He didn't know where to put his hands. Looking at the people around his stall, he actually couldn't feel anything. The young man was stunned by Yi Qinghan's slap, and he didn't react for a long time. Then he was kicked away and fainted. He lay in the middle of the street, and no one came to help him. Many people were even gloating over his misfortune. However, there were also some people who were pointing at Yi Qinghan and discussing something. Fellow Taoist, this guy is the brother-in-law of the Yunhai County god. His name is Shi Qian, and he's a famous hooligan. He colludes with the immortal guards to suppress his peers and lower the price. We can't do anything to him. You should leave quickly. Otherwise, when the immortal guards react, we'll all be in trouble. The burly man hurriedly said, Don't worry, you won't be implicated. I'll wait for the immortal army to come, Lu Zhantian said coldly. Lu Zhantian was very famous, but there weren't many people who knew him. He had been fighting outside all year round. Those who could see him were either the higher-ups of the divine cleansing manor or people from the military. At this moment, even if his real body was here, no one would recognize him. Moreover, his face was pale like a sickly young master. Who would associate him with the powerful Lu Zhantian? The big man's face turned ugly. He did not want to get involved in the fight between the strong sections. It was not that Shi Qian had not offended the strong sects before, but it was always the adventurers who suffered. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a local snake. You should leave. If you don't, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. Yes. A few days ago, Mu Zifei, the grandson of the Mushan County's county god, used his background to fight with Shi Qian. In the end, he was captured and tortured by the immortal guards for several days. In the end, the son of the Mushan County's county god personally came to ask for him. The immortal guards explained that it was a misunderstanding and let him go. You should leave quickly. The experts around reminded them one after another. A powerful dragon will not cross the river. I can also trample on a local snake until he can't crawl back up, Lu Zhantian said with disdain. If they angered him, he could bring the Iron Dragon army to raise the Yunhai County's capital city. Yi Qinghan did not answer. Lu Zhantian and the seventh princess were beside him. If they needed him to deal with such a small matter, then they were underestimating the Iron Dragon army and the princess of the Mushan County. The divine bird found a few more treasures and changed to another stall. Yi Qinghan did not have the slightest intention to escape. Shi Qian's secret guards saw that Yi Qinghan was not to be trifled with, so they secretly carried Shi Qian away without leaving any harsh words. In less than half an hour, the immortal guards had sealed off the entire street. An entire army of 1,000 people, hundreds of priests, armed with divine weapons, acted tyrannically. They did not look like an army, but more like a gang of gangsters. With a fierce face, They walked towards Yi Qinghan's group with a cold smile. Boom! Many adventurers directly packed up their things and scattered. Some even hid in the shops on the street and closed the doors. They watched Yi Qinghan's group of 4 leisurely waiting for the immortal guards to arrive. Lu Zhantian crossed his arms and turned his head to look at the hundreds of priests who were acting like gangsters. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of disdain. If these immortal guards were his subordinates, he would have beaten them to death. There was no need to send them to the battlefield to make a fool of themselves. These immortal guards were the private soldiers of the major cities and counties. They were not bound by the Mushan County and only listened to the county god. Therefore, in Yunhai County, they only recognized the relatives of the county god. They did not recognize anyone else. If they offended them, they would wantonly retaliate. Some of the direct disciples of ordinary sex would be beaten to death. The commander was a middle-aged man with sharp eyes. He looked more like a fox. He was definitely a treacherous person, but his strength was not strong. He relied on Shi Qian to get his position, so he followed Shi Qian's lead. As soon as he heard that Shi Qian was beaten, he immediately brought his men and rushed over. Was it the 4 of them? The commander looked at one of Shi Qian's secret guards and asked in a low voice. It was them. It was the man in black who hit him. Sir Shi has not woken up yet. Quickly capture them and send them to the Shi mansion. When the young master wakes up, there will be a great reward. The secret guard coldly said. Brothers, let's go, whoosh. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and Lu Zhantian turned into bolts of lightning and charged into the crowd. One wielded a long spear while the other wielded a 7-foot-long saber. They were invincible as they charged through the crowd and killed 3 to 4 priests with a single slash. The long spear pierced through the void and pierced through the heads of the priests, plucking out their godheads. When it came to killing and breaking through the enemy lines, Yi Qinghan's skills might not be as strong as Lu Zhantian's. After all, he had been on the battlefield for thousands of years. If he did not have some real skills, he would have died a long time ago. How could he become a vice commander? Kill! With 2 angry shouts, flesh and blood splattered on the street. The priests were unable to use the power of their divine abilities. They did not even have time to pull out their sabers before they were killed by Yi Qinghan. Lu Zhantian cooperated with them from the side. They were very well coordinated and practically swept through the crowd. More than 100 priests were either dead or crippled. There were even some who were directly blown up by Yi Qinghan's fist. Lu Zhantian and Yi Qinghan did not have any intention of holding back. They directly killed the immortal guards. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Hundreds of thousands of vines suddenly stretched out from Yi Qinghan's body and wrapped around a large number of corpses. In an instant they were sucked dry. Some priests who had not yet died tried to escape, but they could not escape the shackles of the start-whining vines. Their godheads were directly pulled out by the vines and became its food. Blurg! Many adventurers had never seen such a cruel scene, let alone the immortal guards who had sealed off the entire Taobao Street. They vomited incessantly and did not even have the heart to escape. More than 100 priests had all fallen. These adventurers were used to seeing powerful young masters and powerful sect disciples, but they had never seen people as crazy as Yi Qinghan and Lu Zhantian. They raised their sabers and started killing. They did not just kill a single immortal guard, but a large group of immortal guards. Yi Qinghan withdrew his saber and looked at Lu Zhantian. He said indifferently, "Actually, I feel that some people cannot be reasoned with. It is also good to kill them until they are reasoned with. At least it will not be so tiring." Lu Zhantian nodded, expressing his high agreement with Yi Qinghan's attitude. Chapter 561. Yi Qinghan and Lu Zhantian's calm words shook the hearts of all the heroes. Their godheads almost shattered. Yunhai County was different from other counties. Rather than saying it was a city under the divine cleansing prefecture, it was better to say it was an independent, autonomous county. Gods were as common as clouds and experts were as numerous as dogs. The county god's strength was an extreme, almighty god. His battle prowess was not inferior to the divine cleansing prefecture's chief steward and was on par with the Iron Dragon Army's governor. Yunhai County god Yun Haitian didn't even give face to the other 3 county gods. Only the prefecture lord could suppress him. Many people looked at Yi Qinghan and Lu Zhantian as if they were dead. However, there were always people who recognized Yi Qinghan. After all, Yi Qinghan's reputation had skyrocketed in the past few days. Even a 3-year-old child had heard of his name, especially that flashy crazy 7-foot saber, which was unique. He is Yi Qinghan, right? Apart from him, who else could use a saber so smoothly? Now that you mention it, I think it is possible. Look at those 2 veiled girls. Could one of them be Emperor Yi? That may not be so. Recently, there have been many impostors in the major regions. The crazy 7-foot saber has become a common sight, especially for a group of children. Their weapons are 7-foot-long sabers. If a blacksmith doesn't know how to make a crazy 7-foot saber, they would be too embarrassed to say they know how to refine weapons. More than 10 adventurers gathered together and stared at Yi Qinghan while discussing. Some suspected that Yi Qinghan was an impostor. A few days ago, I was almost fooled by a young man and woman. A young man in his 20s had a 17 or 18-year-old girl by his side. There was nothing to say about their looks. The girl even dyed her hair white. The man was also holding a 7-foot-long saber. When I first saw them, I was stunned on the spot. I really thought that they were Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. I spoke very carefully and wanted to befriend them. However, those 2 were knocked down by a brute with 1 punch. Only then did I know that they were impostors. A middle-aged man speechlessly said. While everyone was talking, 10,000 soldiers rushed out of the Yunhai Divine Army's barracks and aggressively surrounded the street. The road ahead and the back were blocked. They couldn't fly even if they wanted to. How dare you? You actually dare to massacre the Divine Cleansing Divine Army? The Divine Army's deputy commander angrily said. Less nonsense, take him down. Did he think that he was Yi Qinghan just because he had the 7-foot maniac? Even if it was him who killed so many of my brothers, I would still want his life. The Legion commander waved his hand and ordered. Bush. An army was an army after all. They were orderly and imposing. Under the pressure of so many people, even the Divine Cleansing Divine Army would have to consider whether to attack forcefully or not. Yun Qinglong, you have such a high position. Boom. Lu Zhantian stabbed his spear into the ground, causing the stone slabs to shatter and fly in all directions. His imposing manner was like that of a war god. I am Lu Zhantian. If you want to fight, I will play with you. If you dare to attack me today, you will have to kill me. If I escape, I will raze your Yunhai County to the ground. Lu Zhantian's face was solemn. Boom. The Divine Cleansing Divine Army suddenly stood in place, unable to advance or retreat. They looked at Lu Zhantian with pale faces and occasionally turned to look at Yun Qinglong. They didn't know how to deal with the current situation. Yun Qinglong's breath stagnated. He looked at Lu Zhantian and frowned. This imposing manner alone was enough to explain his identity. Apart from those who had been on the battlefield for many years, not many people could release such a powerful aura, let alone such a terrifying killing intent. Lu Zhantian? Why are you here? Yun Qinglong frowned and asked. Why do I need to report to you? I originally came here with Xiaoqi to play, but as soon as I arrived, I was angered by a trash. Is this how you manage the Divine Cleansing Divine Army? You're also a veteran who followed the superintendent. Is this how he taught you how to lead troops? A bunch of trash colluding with officials and merchants. Don't tell me you don't know. Lu Zhantian coldly reprimanded. Yun Qinglong's face suddenly changed. He was Lu Zhantian Sr. Of course, he didn't think that Lu Zhantian could scare him. However, he couldn't ignore the Xiaoqi that Lu Zhantian mentioned. She was the most precious treasure of the prefecture chief. So the 7th princess is also here. This old man didn't come out to greet you. Please forgive me, your highness. Yun Qinglong looked at Emperor Yi and Mu Xiaoqi. Both of them were wearing veils, so he couldn't tell who was who. He could only stare blankly at them. You don't need to care about me. Answer Brother Tian. Do you know what that trash Shirqian did? Mu Xiaoqi coldly asked. Yun Qinglong's face turned ashen. He knew that Shirqian had kicked an iron plate. He obviously couldn't admit that he knew. Otherwise, if Lu Zhantian reported this to the governor, the superintendent would personally come and slap him to death. This old man didn't know about this. I have been in seclusion recently, striving to enter the divine worship realm. If the vice commander didn't tell me that someone had slaughtered more than 100 high-ranking divine cleansing divine guards, I would still be in seclusion. So, Yun Qinglong lowered his head and said, this was a matter between the military and the government. Yi Qinghan didn't want to interfere. He simply retreated to the side with Emperor Yi and waited for the results. Lu Zhantian looked at Yun Qinglong with disdain and mocked. A dignified legion commander actually has such a soldier. Are you going to tell the superintendent that you are a soldier from the Steel Dragon Army? Yun Qinglong's face slightly changed. He coldly said, Lu Zhantan, I don't need you to judge my soldiers. They can fight on the battlefield as well. When this old man led soldiers to war, you weren't even born yet. What qualifications do you have to judge me? The one who is superior is the teacher. You brought out such a disgraceful soldier, yet I can say this to you. This is the tradition of the Steel Dragon Army. Have you forgotten the military discipline after leaving the Steel Dragon Army? Lu Zhantian questioned. This old man doesn't want to argue with you. Today you started a fight in the city. Both of you will follow me to the prison and wait for the county god's judgment. According to military discipline, if the emperor breaks the law, he will be punished the same as the commoners. Lu Zhantian, you use military discipline to talk to me, then I will use military discipline to talk to you. Are you going to surrender or wait for this old man to come and arrest you? Yun Qinglong coldly replied. Then you will have to ask my brother if he agrees. Lu Zhantian looked at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently. Yi Qinghan sneered. If he went to prison with Yun Qinglong now, would he still be alive? I really don't see the use of Yunhai County's laws. Subordinates follow the example of their superiors. I also learned it from you. If you want to arrest me, then tie yourself up and throw me into prison. I will follow you automatically. Otherwise, this lord will not go to prison with you. Yi Qinghan indifferently said. It seems that you are Yi Qinghan? Yun Qinglong coldly asked. That's right. Yi Qinghan shrugged. Yun Qinglong's face slightly changed. He clearly didn't want to offend Lu Zhantian and the seventh princess. He also didn't want to offend Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. If he offended all four of them at once, his future days wouldn't be good. His eyes flashed as he prepared to find a way out. Chapter 562. Yun Qinglong's eyes flickered. He didn't dare to look straight at Yi Qinghan. The pressure of looking at Yi Qinghan was like looking at the governor of the Iron Dragon Army. He couldn't raise his head at all. Yi Qinghan looked at Yun Qinglong indifferently. He didn't have the ability to make a fuss, so there was no need to argue with him. Yun Qinglong didn't dare to make a move. No matter how powerful the four of them were, they couldn't kill all 10,000 people. He said, I presume Commander Yun doesn't know that Shi Qian colluded with your subordinates to bully others, suppress adventurers, and humiliate fellow cultivators who came to travel? This old man was indeed negligent. I've made a fool of myself in front of Princess and fellow Yi. Yun Qinglong smiled bitterly. That's why I helped you kill some trash. I hope Sir won't make a fuss about it. As for Shi Qian, if your county deity doesn't care, someone will help him in the future, or even take care of him together. Pass on my words to him. I hope he'll take care of himself. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Without waiting for Yun Qinglong to speak, Yi Qinghan turned to Emperor Yi and said, Let's go. The four flew into the air. The immortal guards didn't dare to stop them and made way. By the time Yun Qinglong reacted, the four had already flown into the sky on the god-slaying eagle and disappeared into the horizon. On the back of the god-slaying eagle, Yi Qinghan stood proudly against the wind. He looked down at the vast and boundless land of the Mu clan. Mountain after mountain reached the clouds. Birds flew to the mountain peaks. They were incomparably ruthless. Sometimes, they would catch ferocious beasts and directly tear them apart. Blood dyed the sky red. Screech! An unknown bird let out a mournful and furious cry, enraging the god-slaying eagle. It roared back with an even more ruthless and furious cry, scaring the surrounding 1,000 miles into silence. There was no more howling wind, and the sound of clothes flapping in the wind could be heard. "Where is God Extermination Mountain?" Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. Lu Zhantian frowned and replied, "It's southeast of Divine Cleansing Prefecture's main city, 300,000 li northwest of Cloud Sea County. It's the God Exuding Mountain Range. It used to be an ancient battlefield. 3 prefectures once fought a fierce battle there. It's an ominous place. Brother Yi, it's best if you don't go there." "Ominous?" Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Was there anything more ominous than the 9th underworld in this world? He had already been to the 18th level of the 9 nether realm, but he didn't see any ghosts taking him away. That's right. Tens of thousands of years ago, there were many experts that entered God End Mountain. But after leaving God End Mountain, almost all of them died on the same night. There was no way to find out the cause of death. Everyone died the same way. Their eyes popped out, their faces were purple, and there were marks on their necks. But their godheads weren't damaged, and their souls died. Lu Zhantian smiled bitterly. Logically speaking, we cultivators shouldn't be superstitious. But this matter was indeed strange. Even the almighty experts couldn't escape the curse. They died the same way. In the end, there was a prefecture head who didn't believe it and also went in. In the end, no one knew what he provoked. When he returned to his prefecture, his eyes turned red and moss grew out of his body. It was as if he had been dead for tens of thousands of years. The moss attached itself to his godhead and actually swallowed the prefecture head's soul. In the end, that prefecture head personally grabbed his own neck and strangled himself to death. His eyes rolled back and his face turned purple. His death was extremely terrifying. Moreover, he died in front of hundreds of experts in his prefecture. This matter became more and more mysterious. So after that prefecture head, no matter how brave the adventurers were, they only dared to wander around the periphery. No one dared to enter God End Mountain. From then on, God End Mountain became the true God End Mountain. Lu Zhantian explained. Yi Qinghan was astonished. This kind of death was a bit similar to the witch tribe's curse technique of the nature tribe. However, did the mythical plane have witch ancestors or witch gods? You believe that this is because of bad luck or because they encountered something dirty? Yi Qinghan looked at Lu Zhantian. It was obvious that he didn't believe this. Of course I don't believe it. However, it's too risky to bring the two of them in. Lu Zhantian looked at Emperor Yi and Mu Xiaoqi. It was obvious that he also wanted to enter God End Mountain. However, he didn't want the two women to take the risk. You're just asking for a beating. Don't forget who crippled you. Emperor Yi coldly snorted. My son is fine. If something happened to her, then something will happen to the two of us. However, the 7th princess's identity isn't ordinary. I think we should just forget about it. Yi Qinghan naturally didn't want to bring the 7th princess in to take the risk. If something happened, the prefecture head would fight him to the death. No. If you all want to go in, then you must bring me in as well. Otherwise, don't go in at all. Mu Xiaoqi was very bold and very curious. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been bitten by the 7 demise snakes. She also wouldn't have wanted to find out what secrets Shun Kongshao was talking about. After an intense discussion, the 4 of them couldn't change Mu Xiaoqi's attitude. Thus, they decided to join forces and enter God End Mountain to investigate. Emperor Yi played a divine tune and used the time on the road to heal Lu Zhantian's last bit of injury. A distance of 300,000 miles was only a matter of seconds in the endless plains. However, it was different in the mythical plane. The god-slaying eagle flew for a full half a month and crossed countless mountains and rivers before arriving in front of an unparalleled mountain range. Smoke filled the air. Ferocious beasts ran amok in the periphery. However, there was an eerie aura of death in the depths. The cold aura caused the priests to shiver uncontrollably. When Yi Qinghan and the others landed outside the mountain range, it happened to be early in the morning. Immortal aura lingered and divine light shone brilliantly. Tender green leaves swayed in the morning breeze. An ancient aura filled the air. There were very few signs of human habitation. It was as if no one had come here for thousands of years. A gust of cold wind blew past. Mu Xiaoqi's entire body trembled. Her face was deathly pale, and a hint of shock appeared in her eyes. However, she gritted her teeth and didn't want to retreat. Emperor Yi patted Mu Xiaoqi's shoulder comfortingly and said in a low voice, "If you really can't do it, you can just stay outside." "No. I just want to go in and take a look. You all are so confident. I feel like I can definitely come back alive. Maybe my name can also be recorded in the annals of history." Mu Xiaoqi was a little crazy. She actually wanted to enter God and Mountain to become famous. At this moment, the divine bird suddenly jumped out of Yi Qinghan's body. It stared into the depths with its large eyes and said in horror, "Yi Qinghan, if you dare to go in, I will sever all ties with you." Yi Qinghan pursed his lips. The divine bird would say this every time and exaggerate the danger. However, didn't he always turn the danger into safety? What now? Is there something inside that eats people? Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. "I'm freaking going to explode before I even go in. Who knows what's inside? Anyway, just listen to me this once. When has this divine bird ever harmed you?" The divine bird's white feathers exploded as it said angrily, "We'll just walk around the periphery. We won't go in. Don't get so worked up." Yi Qinghan reached out and pinched the divine bird. He put away the god-slaying eagle and walked straight into the depths. The divine bird roared madly, waking up the cloud beast. It opened its large eyes in confusion and scanned the strange forest. It kept calling out in a low voice. "Meow, meow, meow." The cloud beast pointed its small claws at the depths as if it was afraid of something. Yi Qinghan became even more curious. Just what kind of damned thing was in the depths of this forest that could curse experts? Even experts at the level of a manor head would be cursed and die tragically at his hands. Chapter 563. In the main hall of the Mushin estate, the estate master heard the steward's report that Yi Qinghan had brought Princess Qi and Lu Zhantian into God Extinction Mountain. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. The steward bowed slightly and said, "My lord, they just entered the outer area. Why don't I go and stop them? Maybe we can stop them." The estate master thought for a moment and shook his head. "Forget it. Let them go in. If something really happens, maybe someone will come and save them." The estate master decided to take a gamble. He bet their lives that the 9 Remoteness Lord would appear. If he won, he would have a chance to enter the realm of a superior god and become the 10th superior god of the mythical plane. If he lost, he could only blame their bad luck. In the outer area of God Extinction Mountain, the first ray of sunlight couldn't shine in at all. When the sunlight shone on the white fog, it refracted several colors. It was very beautiful. Yi Qinghan and the others held their weapons. They even gave the reincarnation mirror to Mu Xiaoqi to use in case of an emergency. Lu Zhantian emitted a majestic killing intent. He held a spear and wore golden armor. His masculine aura covered the sky and earth. It could block the filthy evil aura. Yi Qinghan's aura even surpassed Lu Zhantian's. The fire origin wrapped around his body. Any unlucky filth that approached would be burned into nothingness. The metal origin wandered around his body. He emitted a golden light and intertwined with Emperor Ye's energy. They formed the great Tao of Yin and Yang. The Yin and Yang diagram hung in front of his chest. On the rugged path, the eerie white bones were a ghastly sight. It was unknown how long they had been dead. Most of them were the remains of god priests. They hadn't completely rotted yet. There were even some that were in perfect condition as if they had just died yesterday. The divine bird lay on Yi Qinghan's shoulder dispiritedly. It said weakly, "This divine bird knew that one day, you would kill me. What are you afraid of? I don't believe there's something that can affect the fate of a powerhouse. It can even scare a supreme god priest to death. There's definitely something fishy here." Yi Qinghan's eyes were like stars. He held his long sword behind him and said in a low voice, "But why don't you think about it? If this trick can kill an extreme Tao Almighty priest, why can't it kill the 4 of you?" The divine bird argued. Lu Zhantian and Mu Xiaoqi both curiously looked at the divine bird. They had both heard of the reputation of the divine spirit-devouring parrot, But this was the first time they had seen it. Mu Xiaoqi even wanted to reach out and grab it to play with, but she was glared at by the divine bird. She quickly withdrew her hand and snorted. Boom! A huge beast that had already mutated appeared. It looked like a lion, but it also looked like a tiger. Or rather, it was something that did not look like anything at all. It was as huge as a small mountain. It directly jumped out from the depths and waved its huge paw at the four of them. Yi Qinghan slashed out with his blade with unstoppable force. He slashed at the giant palm, but it was as if he had hit a dimensional barrier. The vast power sent him flying. Lu Zhantian immediately stabbed out with his spear. He joined forces with Yi Qinghan to resist the giant beast's attack. Mu Xiaoqi directly activated the reincarnation mirror. Her divine power was almost depleted in an instant. A deep black light of reincarnation appeared in front of them, covering dozens of miles. However, it did not kill the beast. It only destroyed part of its body, which angered the beast even more. The beast let out a mournful roar. It swept its huge limbs and broke dozens of thick ancient trees. It then smashed towards the four of them. Hundreds of thousands of vines suddenly rushed out of Yi Qinghan's body and directly wrapped around the giant beast's body. The cloud beast went berserk like a bolt of lightning. It streaked across the bottom of the giant beast's head. Instantly, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The blood sword pierced through the sky. The beast screamed as its throat was slashed open by the cloud beast's sharp claws. Puchi! The huge main vine smoothly pierced through the throat. Countless vines sank into the beast's body, and a large amount of flesh and blood was devoured by the star-twining vine. Yi Qinghan and Lu Zhantian went berserk at the same time. They continuously slashed open wounds on the giant beast's body. Every time a wound appeared, the star-twining vine would pierce it with hundreds of vines. The star-twining vine's appetite was frightening. It instantly devoured half of the mountain-like beast's life essence. The beast fell to the ground with a loud bang. The cloud beast was too small. It was almost negligible in front of the giant beast. Its flying speed was too fast. It kept slashing open the beast's head and dug out a head-sized godhead. The giant beast twitched and roared. The godhead emitted a skyrocketing light and directly sent the cloud beast flying. Boom! Yi Qinghan leaped up and slashed at the godhead. However, the godhead exploded with a terrifying power and directly sent him flying. Even Yi Qinghan was smashed into the distance. The godhead bore the force of 1,000,000 jin and directly smashed into the ground. Lu Zhantian flew over and forcefully held onto the godhead. The star-twining vine stretched out thousands of vines and wrapped around Lu Zhantian as well. Yi Qinghan returned to his original spot and extracted the godhead from the vines. The vines automatically spread out and desperately absorbed the giant beast's life essence. This is the giant mountain beast, a strength-type divine beast. The power contained in the godhead is comparable to a mid-level god. It's worth 50,000 mid-grade divine crystals. Lu Zhantian said excitedly. He had saved up for more than 1,000 years and was in a high position. However, he had only saved 300,000 mid-grade divine crystals. That was all he had. Now that he had obtained 50,000 mid-grade divine crystals, he was obviously very happy. Yi Qinghan thought about it and directly inserted the godhead of the giant mountain beast into the blade core slot of the heavy berserk saber. He then sealed the core slot. The heavy berserk saber was like an ancient divine weapon. It emitted a terrifying aura and pressured Lu Zhantian until he started to retreat. Boom, boom, boom. The giant mountain beast was unwilling to become the blade core. Its soul fiercely resisted, trying to break free from Yi Qinghan's restraint. Humph! You better be obedient. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Yi Qinghan angrily shouted and increased the confinement of the 5 elements. The giant mountain beast immediately became obedient. However, it continued to growl and was extremely unwilling. You're so cheap. Why do you have to scare it to make it obedient? The divine bird was speechless. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied. Now that he had the godhead of the giant mountain beast as the blade core and the soul of the giant mountain beast as the tool spirit, at least for the current him, it was definitely enough. Let's continue. No matter what the next treasure is, it's all yours. I want this godhead of the giant mountain beast, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Lu Zhantian didn't refuse. He nodded and followed beside Mu Xiaoqi. He whispered, "Be careful. The deeper we go, the more dangerous it will be." Emperor Yi didn't make a move from the beginning to the end. He quietly followed behind Yi Qinghan, holding the human emperor's zither in his arms as they went deeper and deeper. Mountains rose and fell. The sunlight finally penetrated the confinement and shone on the faces of the four. The four of them were in high spirits. They didn't have the slightest bit of fear. Instead, they were even more excited and expectant. In front of them was a verdant valley. The path was covered in wild grass. There were broken limbs and bloodstains everywhere. The sword scar halfway up the mountain hadn't been erased. The powerful aura of a superior didn't disperse for a long time. The aura of death was abnormally dense. Even the cleansing of thousands of years couldn't wash away the cruel killing intent here. This was the entrance to God-ending mountain. If they went deeper, they would be in a vast battlefield. The ancient battlefield of the past. The austere aura rushed towards them. A sense of danger rushed towards the four like maggots in their bones. Chapter 564. A gust of cold wind blew by, causing them to tremble. The austere aura was like maggots in the bones, directly penetrating their divine clothes and entering their bodies. It was too strange. The depths made one's hair stand on end. A gust of cold wind made the four super experts unable to resist. If they continued to go deeper, they might really be in danger. You see, this divine bird never lies. There are at least a few almighty divine beasts in the depths. Moreover, this place is so strange. I can actually feel that there are treasures and opportunities here. This is clearly a fucking temptation. The divine bird said irritably. Actually, I can also feel that there are opportunities for me here, so I won't give up, Yi Qinghan said firmly. Lu Zhantian and the other two looked at each other in dismay. The three of them actually had the same feeling. This kind of temptation was fatal. That was why so many people rushed forward and died in the battlefield of God Extinction Mountain. Even if there were strong cultivators who went deep and could retreat, they would die in their own residences. Moreover, they would die very miserably. The divine herbs in the valley swayed. It was unknown how many years they had been growing, but none of them could transform. Their realm was already comparable to that of a venerable emperor. Every divine herb was a temptation. The divine herbs stretched all the way to the depths. It made one unable to move. The star-twining vine involuntarily stretched out its vines. It didn't care about the danger and directly wrapped around the divine herb, instantly absorbing its essence. In the world of foodies, it couldn't see any danger. It even took the initiative to drag Yi Qinghan into the depths. The divine bird snorted, "Damn foodie, how can I be your accompanying divine beast? You're simply a disgrace to this divine bird's glorious image. Follow me." Yi Qinghan took the initiative to walk forward. The origin of fire erupted, blocking the cold wind ahead and causing raging flames to soar into the sky. The four of them were responsible for four directions, going deeper and deeper. Mu Xiaoqi's cultivation was the lowest, but she had the reincarnation mirror, so she was enough to defend the rear. Lu Zhantian was responsible for the right, and Emperor Yi was responsible for the left. Their front, back, left, and right were tightly guarded. Yi Qinghan was only responsible for the front, leaving a footprint in each step. The start-whining vine was in charge of extending its vines to pick the divine herbs. If it found any divine treasure materials, they would be taken and sent into the universe ring. The divine bird suddenly looked up at the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, making it impossible to see through the void source. It stretched out its claws and pulled the cloud beast to its side. It shouted, "This divine bird is the boss. In the future, you will protect me. You're in charge of keeping watch above." The cloud beast was dissatisfied. It bared its fangs, wishing that it could tear the divine bird apart with its claws. But without Yi Qinghan's permission, it didn't dare to do so. Sha sha sha. The four of them were very careful and moved very slowly. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches. Even the slightest sound would alert him. He looked at the bottom of a dried-up river that was still gurgling. The surroundings were filled with red flowers and green willows. It was indescribably beautiful. However, he did not feel that there was anything attractive about this place. Only a gloomy and cold aura followed him like a shadow. The deeper they went, the stronger the calling became. However, there was also a sense of danger. It was an irresistible temptation, but it also tormented one's spirit. The divine bird had an extremely strong premonition of danger. It was driven mad and wanted to retreat. With the protection of four great experts, the Startwining Vine's ascension to the divine shrine, and the cloud beast by its side, it felt an overwhelming sense of security and became even more anxious. The valley was very long and several thousand meters long. The four of them walked for more than 2 hours. The Startwining Vine had picked all the divine herbs in the valley, leaving only weeds. It had eaten its fill and was beginning to accumulate food. There was a divine tree in front of them full of golden fruits filled with patterns of the great Tao. It was obvious at a glance that they were supreme treasures. They had not been picked for tens of thousands of years and were completely ripe. A single fruit could be sold for thousands of low-grade divine crystals outside. There were at least a few thousand on this tree, almost crushing the branches. This is a divine spirit peach. Apart from some powerful manor heads or divine kingdom palaces that transplanted some, the others have long gone extinct. A divine peach of this age is worth 100 mid-grade divine crystals. It is even priceless. We are rich. Mu Xiaoqi was experienced and knowledgeable. She had once eaten a peach like this when she was young, and the taste was still lingering in her mind. The peach tree grew at the bottom of the mountain and was surrounded by weeds. There were some poisonous snakes hanging from the peach tree, constantly flicking their tongues. Screech! The god-slaying eagle rushed out of Yi Qinghan and Emperor Ye's bodies. The two battle eagles swooped down on the poisonous snakes and eliminated them all. A giant python rushed out from behind the peach tree. It was about 300 meters long and was like a dragon. It swung its giant tail and smashed it viciously at the god-slaying eagle. Screech! The divine dragon in Lu Zhantian's body rushed out instantly and opened its fangs to bite the giant python's body. The giant dragon and the giant python intertwined and twisted. It was enough to break a mountain. Chapter 565. As soon as Yi Qinghan stepped out of the valley and entered the eerie battlefield behind God Extinction Mountain, the waist token hanging beside the 9 Remoteness Master suddenly shone with a golden light. The urgent warning made the 9 Remoteness Master open his eyes and see Yi Qinghan and the others through the plane's spacetime. The 9 Remoteness Master's weathered face showed a hint of surprise. He had placed a strand of consciousness on Yi Qinghan's teleportation token. Although it was not much, it was enough to serve as a warning. When the threat came from a mighty god who had surpassed the middle extreme path, it would automatically send out a warning, allowing him to detect Yi Qinghan's location in advance. The 9 Remoteness Master looked down at the mythical plane from billions of light years away. His eyes were like torches as he looked at the eerie road of bones. The countless corpses had not been weathered yet, and the smell of rotting corpses was unusually strong. The divinity of various elemental great Taos and precepts intertwined, evolving into a different kind of hell. It looked a bit like an ancient battlefield that had been formed for at least hundreds of thousands of years. This was a small place, and it was the border of the mythical plane. There were no superior gods willing to come here, so even if there was something special about this place, the superior gods would not know. If Yi Qinghan had not gone deep this time, the 9 Remoteness Master would not have been able to investigate this place. This is actually the slumbering place of the 3rd generation. The soul of the sorcerer god was awakened by countless battles, and this place became a cursed place. The 9 Remoteness Master murmured. The 1st generation of the sorcerer god was the first batch of gods born at the beginning of the chaos. They were the real giant gods of chaos. They had great fortune, reversed reincarnation, and were immortal. However, such existences also had conflicts of interest. They fought with each other and shattered the chaotic universe, evolving into countless small planes, middle planes, and even the upper plane according to legend was the center of the chaotic universe. The chaotic universe was destroyed because of the war of the giant gods of chaos. The heavenly axiom died, and in a final strike in anger, it killed all the giant gods of chaos. Those immortal gods disappeared from then on, buried in a place called the giant god's tomb. The giant god's tomb was a floating graveyard that had long disappeared in the boundless universe. No one knew if those undying and indestructible people were truly killed by the heavenly Tao, nor did they know if they could reverse the cycle of reincarnation and come back again to stir up the situation. Perhaps many people had already forgotten. The first generation of the witch god was one of the giant gods of chaos. He was the heaven-battling witch god, defied the heavens, and fought with the great fiend celestial light song for hegemony in the world. The heaven-battling witch god was particular about the harmony of the world and equality of all living beings. The great fiend celestial cult wished for the fiend celestial cult to unify the world. As the supreme god, all living beings in the world had to submit to him. Thus, the war began from then on. Lives were plunged into misery and suffering as corpses piled up for tens of thousands of feet. Giant gods of primal chaos fell one after another. In the end, they angered the heavenly Tao and perished together. Those giant gods of chaos had children, and their sons and daughters were respectfully called the primordial gods. However, they were not immortal and indestructible, and they could not reverse time and space. In the end, they all died of old age. The sorcerer race also continued, but the sorcerer god was getting weaker and weaker with each generation, while the demonic religion became more and more prosperous. In the end, the sorcerer race was wiped out several times in a row, and only a few of them were left alive, hiding in small planes. The 9 remoteness master and the 5th sorcerer god were from the same era, but the sorcerer god who was sleeping here was actually 1 era older than the 9 remoteness master. This era did not refer to the current era, but to the era of the gods, which was equivalent to the lifetime of a top-level god or even a master god. However, the master god had not appeared for millions of years, and the 9 remoteness master had never seen a second one, even though his cultivation level had surpassed that of a high-level god. The 9 remoteness master was well aware that the sorcerer god's curse was ridiculously powerful and could even kill a high-level god, but he did not stop Yi Qinghan's actions. This was because Yi Qinghan himself had the bloodline of the sorcerer race, and he had even inherited the sorcerer race's legacy. Yi Qinghan was destined to fight the demonic religion's experts. He had inherited the sorcerer race's legacy, and this was a fate that he could not escape from. Yi Qinghan's bloodline of the sorcerer race came from Ming Ke. That one night of intimacy had caused his bloodline to merge with Ming Ke, Earth, and he even had the 5 elements body, which was no different from the high-level bloodline of the sorcerer race in the past. Maybe it's an opportunity, or maybe it's death. It all depends on your luck. If you die, boy, you won't be able to escape from me. The 9 remoteness master snorted and looked on coldly. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Yi Qinghan and the others advanced slowly. As soon as they entered the depths of the battlefield, a strange power of the contract began to slowly enter their bodies. There were no symptoms, but it was slow and orderly, slowly eroding their souls and bloodlines. Yi Qinghan's heartbeat quickened. He felt as if his soul was being adhered by something. The power of his bloodline began to intertwine with the strange power of the contract. However, the curse was illusory. Yi Qinghan only felt fear and trepidation, but he did not know that the curse had already taken effect. Unknowingly, the curse came into contact with the power of the sorcerer race's bloodline and was automatically broken down by the 5 elements. It did not harm Yi Qinghan, but Lu Zhantian was not spared. The power of the curse was like a maggot in one's bones. His blood flowed several times faster, and so did his godhead. He mobilized endless divine energy to suppress the curse, and the speed at which his blood flowed was also about twice as fast as usual. Mu Xiaoqi's cultivation was the weakest, so her blood flowed and Godhead's divine energy flowed 1.5 times faster than usual. Emperor Ye's soul was one with the heavens, so the power of the curse could not affect him in the slightest. The sorcerer god could curse any living being, but he could not curse the heavens and earth. Cursing Emperor Yi was the same as cursing the heavens, so Emperor Yi had an advantage over Yi Qinghan. After all, the curse first went from the soul to the bloodline. However, the curse could not even penetrate Emperor Yi's soul, so how could it affect the bloodline? "How are you guys?" Yi Qinghan hurriedly asked when he noticed that something was wrong with Lu Zhantian and Mu Xiaoqi. "My blood flow and divine energy flow are much faster than usual. It's at least twice as fast," Lu Zhantian said in a low voice. Mu Xiaoqi's face was pale. She finally understood how those people died. Those experts' divine energy was completely drained, their souls were weak, and they were hallucinating. Moreover, strange moss grew on the surface of their bodies due to the curse, just like plants. It was very terrifying. "My divine energy is flowing too fast. My soul seems to be getting weaker and weaker. There's a great battle ahead." Mu Xiaoqi immediately began to cry out. Her face was full of panic. It was obvious that she had fallen into an illusion. Yi Qinghan directly knocked Mu Xiaoqi out with his palm and suppressed her soul to prevent her from harming herself. He poured his divine sense into her mind and found that her soul was dim, as if she had already died. He couldn't help but be shocked. This is indeed a bit like the Sorcerer Tribe's Nature Clan curse technique. Yi Qinghan had seen the Nature Sorcerer Tribe's experts in action before. The curse technique was extremely strange and could harm people without them noticing. It was very difficult to guard against. Chapter 566. Yi Qinghan realized why this place was so ominous. It wasn't because it was an ancient battlefield, but because of the Witch Tribe's curse. There were broken divine artifacts and corpses everywhere. Not a single blade of grass grew in this vast territory. Even after tens of thousands of years, it was still stained with blood. Broken weapons were inserted into the rocky earth, and some corpses were also nailed to the ground. It was incomparably miserable. "My son, take them out of here and help them suppress the curse. I'll go in and take a look. There's a Witch Tribe curse here, so it must be because of something from the Witch Tribe. Maybe it can save them." Yi Qinghan stared into the depths and decided to go in. It might not be a problem to retreat now, but Lu Zhantian and Mu Xiaoqi were cursed. They had to find a way to save them. "You go in alone." Emperor Yi frowned, unwilling. "I'm fine. The Witch Tribe's curse shouldn't target me, but Brother Lu and Princess Qi can't do it. They need to be taken care of." "You stay outside," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Lu Zhantian's expression was ugly. He wanted to refuse Yi Qinghan's kindness, but his divine power was flowing too fast. His soul was getting weaker and weaker. He couldn't withstand it at all. Once he lost his mind, he and Mu Xiaoqi would suffer. "This divine bird will go take care of them too." The divine bird didn't want to go in. Its eyes flickered as it wanted to break the contract with Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled disdainfully. He grabbed the divine bird's neck and led it into the depths. Their figures became more and more blurred. Yi Qinghan collected all the broken divine artifacts. Countless vines swept past, and only some broken bones were left, which were all collected by the star-twisting vine. These broken divine weapons were still precious treasures. They could be forged again and made into new ones. The crazy sect lacked these treasures. Some of the ordinary divine weapons had already decayed, so the start-whining vine didn't even bother to take them. Those powerful divine bones had also been taken away by Yi Qinghan. There were also many complete divine weapons here before, but they were all taken away by others, even though those people had died in the end. The deeper they went, the more divine weapons there were. There were also some powerful complete divine weapons. These places had never been set foot in by the later generations. The ravines were connected to the sky, and they were all carved out by the swords and sabers of the experts. The sword marks revealed the profound meaning of the sword Dao, outlining the tragic situation of the past. If a sword Dao expert cultivated here, he would be able to advance 1,000 miles in a day. Yi Qinghan raised his eyes and looked over. The dense white mist contrasted with the color of blood, and under the illumination of the sun, it was so gorgeous. There was a demon in the beauty, and it stole one's soul. The big eyes under his thick eyebrows were filled with flames, and the 5 elements surged in his divine body. In the depths of the battlefield, a cold wind suddenly howled and blew his black hair back. The austere atmosphere became even denser. Yi Qinghan fiercely stood in place, extremely vigilant. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The dense cold wind rolled up the yellow sand and filled the sky. The cold wind whistled past, sharp and ear-piercing, like the mournful cries of the dead. It made one's hair stand on end. Damn it! This place is even more disgusting than the 9 serenities. I can't even feel the slightest bit of the aura of the supreme treasure. But why are there divine weapons everywhere? The divine bird roared madly at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan frowned, and the fierce wind messed up his black hair. Suddenly, intermittent voices came from the depths of the battlefield, as if they were coming from the depths of hell. It was unknown which era the old voice came from, and which era it was going to travel to. Yi Qinghan tilted his head to listen, and his handsome face revealed a trace of seriousness. Sinners, who disturb this God's slumber, you will be cursed, your souls will return to hell, and your divine bodies will become filthy, covered with moss. You will experience the world's most terrifying torture. Your souls will be tortured. Many of the words were intermittent and incomplete. The cold and hoarse voice was emotionless, without even the slightest hint of anger. It didn't seem like the words of a human at all. You disturb the slumber of the dead of my shaman race. You will all die of fear. At this moment, the divine bird finally calmed down. It also heard the curse technique, a curse from the shaman race. It was a curse from the shaman god. Although it didn't know who started this curse, if it could curse a powerhouse on the level of a palace master to death, Yi Qinghan definitely wouldn't be able to avoid it. Yi Qinghan suddenly felt fear and trepidation, as if his soul had suffered a heavy blow. He felt as if he had personally experienced this terrifying scene, as if he were an enhanced version of Shao Warstar. It made his entire body shiver and his eyes turn fierce. Even someone as strong as him who had the 5 elements body and the bloodline and inheritance of the shaman race couldn't escape this curse. The shaman god's curse ignored everything and could curse all living beings. As the shaman race's 3rd-generation shaman god, I curse that anyone who steps into Jueshan Ridge will experience 1,000 tribulations and die without a burial ground. Bang! The final curse was like a thunderclap that exploded within Yi Qinghan's spiritual sea. The explosion shook the heavens and the earth, stirring up Yi Qinghan's sea of bitterness. The power of faith tumbled and black clouds tumbled in the depths of his spiritual sea. Chapter 567. The 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth gathered together. The heavenly dragon streaked across the clouds, and the scorching sun tore through the shackles. It burned away all the filth and evil energy, and the blood-stained world became barren. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like limpid autumn water. With a thought, the world mourned. With a thought, the world became barren. The entire battlefield was devoid of life. I said there must be water. Yi Qinghan moved his finger, and the purest source of water in the world moved the water from the heavens. It whistled through the sky and poured down, drowning the yellow sand and cleansing the mortal world. The earth churns, and the source of earth appears. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The entire withered battlefield rose and fell. The sand and stones were drowned by the earth, and the barren battlefield became fertile land. I said there must be life. The thousands of vines of the star-twining vine broke and pierced into the earth, taking root and sprouting. Yi Qinghan casually scattered the seeds of the divine medicine, which were stimulated by the source of the 5 elements. They quickly broke through the earth and began to grow. Although there were not many of them, and although it was only a small area, it became the only place of life within a radius of countless miles. There was life in death, just like there was hope in a hopeless situation. Yi Qinghan focused on his own matters, and was no longer disturbed by the negative emotions brought about by the curse technique. Not only did his soul not become weak because of the curse technique, it became stronger because of his current focus. The negative emotions were gradually expelled from Yi Qinghan's divinity and sea of consciousness. His eyes were deep and everything in front of him was clear. The fog could not cover his eyes, and the curse technique could no longer bind him. Boom! Yi Qinghan held Crazy Sword in his hand and stepped into the ditch, splashing up dirty water and mud as he went deeper and deeper. The sound of the curse technique was still floating, as if it would last forever. Suddenly, an afterimage flashed past in front of him like an illusion. Yi Qinghan's pupils constricted. He clearly saw a peerless figure dressed in the witch tribe's attire, and he could not help but bristle. Is that a witch tribe member? The divine bird's eyes flashed, and it laid on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and asked doubtfully, "You saw it too?" Yi Qinghan held Crazy Sword tightly and said in a low voice, "Nonsense. The sorcerer tribe's curse technique is useless against me. What I see here is definitely not an illusion." The divine bird said confidently, "It was too fast. I didn't see it clearly, but it seemed to be the clothes of the shaman tribe. However, there are some differences." Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and said through gritted teeth, "The third sorcerer god is buried here. I wonder if there are any more shamans guarding this place. If there are, then that person just now should be the tomb keeper. If not, then that person just now." When Yi Qinghan said this, he could not help but shiver. This kind of thing was like a mortal seeing a ghost. Goosebumps rose all over his body. "Let's go and take a look. This divine bird's interest is piqued. I've never seen a divine soul that has been dead for millions or even tens of millions of years that hasn't been destroyed. Even my ancestors have never seen it before, ha." The divine bird said excitedly. Yi Qinghan turned his head to look at the divine bird on his shoulder. He pursed his lips and asked, "Are you all right? If he really is the third sorcerer god, do you know what will happen if you meet him? What? Is there anything in this world that you're afraid of?" The divine bird said disdainfully, as if it had seen through Yi Qinghan. It said, "Hurry up and follow him. Who knows, we might discover something." Yi Qinghan grinned. The divine bird understood him. No matter how strange the world was, he was not afraid. He always wanted to find out the truth. Therefore, he raised his saber and rushed into the depths. He was like the wind, traceless and without a trace. The afterimage was still floating. It looked like a spiritual body, but it also looked like a real body of flesh and blood. It was clearly not far in front of him, but it also looked like it was far away. It was blurry and unfathomable. Yi Qinghan kept following behind. The more he looked, the more alarmed he became. The afterimage did not seem to have noticed him and continued to float into the depths. "He is the guardian of the third sorcerer god's tomb. I don't know how many years he has been dead. Don't get too close." A voice suddenly exploded in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. It shook Yi Qinghan, causing him to tremble. He felt that the voice was somewhat familiar. "Nine Nether, Master?" Yi Qinghan frowned and asked in a low voice. "You still know to call me Master. My efforts were not in vain." The Nine Nether Master snorted coldly. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. Was a superior god priest really so powerful? Even though he was on the 18th level of the Nine Nether, he could actually see through the shackles of time and space, observe the mythical plane, and transmit his voice at will? You have the bloodline and inheritance of the sorcerer tribe. If you follow him to the tomb of the third sorcerer god, you might be able to obtain the inheritance of the ancient sorcerer god. However, fate can never be broken. After you obtain the inheritance, the enemy you will face will not be so easy to deal with, the Nine Nether Master reminded in a low voice. "What enemy?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. They were the first batch of living beings in the universe, immortal and eternal. Among them, the two strongest were the first sorcerer god and Emperor Yu. Emperor Yu's actions were extreme. It was illusory, as if it came from the ground, but it also seemed to come from the sky. It came from every corner. Helpless, he opened his eyes and looked at the crisscrossing rocks. Most of them had been smoothed out by the passage of time, and new rocks had been born. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan's eyes fixed on a huge rock. That rock contained endless vicissitudes and history, and it was impossible to tell its age. It's impossible for a rock to stand there for millions of years without being destroyed. If it can stand there for millions of years without being destroyed, then it must be a rock that has been specially treated. Yi Qinghan lifted his feet and walked towards the mountainside in front of him. It was almost one with the mountain, and it was no different from an ordinary rock. The only difference was that it had a longer history than the other rocks. If other people saw it, they might not even care. Yi Qinghan swung the heavy frenzy blade and tested it lightly. He realized that the rock was not easy to destroy. As long as he used his divine power to strike the rock, it would emit patterns of the great Tao and bounce the divine power away. "It's here," Yi Qinghan said softly. The divine bird curiously flew around the rock a few times. It couldn't help but be curious. With its reputation as a divine bird, it actually couldn't find anything special about this rock. How could it hide in the huge sorcerer's tomb? Yi Qinghan put away the heavy frenzy blade and reached out to pull the rock out. He realized that he couldn't move it at all. Even if he used all his strength, he couldn't move it at all. He turned his head left and right a few times, but he still couldn't move it. He couldn't help but size it up curiously and ponder. "Try smashing it down." The divine bird descended from the sky and stepped on it ruthlessly. The mountain suddenly split into two, and a huge black hole appeared. It directly swallowed Yi Qinghan. Before Yi Qinghan could react, the mountain and the mountain merged back into one. Boom! His vision was pitch black. Yi Qinghan fell straight down and crashed into the stone floor. His divine body ached like a mortal falling from the sky. "Io!" The divine bird cried out miserably as its head hit the ground first. It was dizzy and couldn't stand steadily. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes wide and looked at the pitch-black space. He couldn't even see his fingers if he stretched out his hand. It was as if he was in a completely sealed space. He moved his feet and felt as if he was stepping on bones. The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out incessantly. What followed was silence. Deathly stillness. It was as if this was hell. There was no sound, no life, no sunlight, nothing. "Fire!" Yi Qinghan whispered. He moved his finger and a wisp of flame appeared on it, illuminating a distance of more than 10 meters. The flame on his finger moved gently, which shocked him. There was wind here, which meant that there was ventilation. This isn't a sealed space. Could it be that we weren't under the mountain just now? Yi Qinghan was astonished. He looked around and realized that this place was like a huge underground palace. The buildings were all strange and ancient, and the oil lamps had long since been extinguished. There was a passage blocked by a stone tablet in the middle of the road. Yi Qinghan went forward to take a look at the stone tablet and realized that there wasn't a single word on it. There were only 3 ghastly sword marks. Wordless sword tablet. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't understand why this sword tablet was placed here. Yi Qinghan lit up the oil lamps again and saw that this underground palace was more luxurious than any palace hall he had ever seen. Every item was millions of years old and had been preserved to this day. Corpses were strewn everywhere. Some were holding divine weapons while others had been strangled to death by themselves. The eerie golden bones revealed the profound mysteries of the laws. All of them had been worshipped by an extreme middle-stage expert. It was a pity that they had all died, and they had all died without a sound. Yi Qinghan raised his eyes and turned around. He looked at the stone door and saw a few soul-stirring words. His pupils shrank as he took a few steps back. Which god's tomb? Death to all intruders. Thump, thump, thump. These words were like divine weapons that pierced Yi Qinghan's heart. His heartbeat quickened as he looked at the corpses of the experts. They had all died tragically. From their skulls, he could tell that these people had either been scared to death or starved to death. Worshippers also needed to replenish their energy. If they didn't replenish their energy for a year or two, they might be fine as their divine power would be enough to support them. But 8 to 10 years would have an impact. 1,000 years or 100 years would cause them to go crazy. What about 10,000 years, 100,000 years, or even 1,000,000 years? After a long time, Yi Qinghan realized that he couldn't cultivate here. There was no divine qi or spirit qi. Once he finished eating all the spirit fruits and spirit herbs on him, he could only wait for death. This won't do. I have to find a way to get out quickly. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. At this moment, the divine bird found a universe ring in this huge palace. After the Emperor Blood recognized it as its master, it collected all the divine weapons and low-level sorcerer race secret techniques that were scattered on the ground. These low-level sorcerer race secret techniques were only for the third generation of the witch god. But to Yi Qinghan, or to the current mythical plane, they were definitely priceless secret techniques. Their value was immeasurable. Half of the 3,000 small cities in the divine cleansing estate had fallen, and the rest were caught in the war. The army was the army, and the situation was almost one-sided. The immortal guards of the major cities were defeated without a fight, and some small sects had announced their departure from the divine cleansing estate and joined the broken army and Gongyang prefectures. Those who disobeyed would be killed without mercy. The insane sect was also under attack. Fortunately, Medusa was there to hold on until now. The Western Gorge Mountain was easy to defend and difficult to attack, so it hadn't been breached. However, there were at least 100,000 soldiers around, constantly attacking the insane sect's formation. The two of them knelt for a whole hour. They were both angry, especially Yan Yunbei. His fingertips moved slightly. The dragon-shaped dagger turned into a long snake. He held it tightly in his hand and was ready to attack at any moment. However, hard work paid off. The kneeling of the two powerful martial artists finally paid off. Gongyang Wanluan finally stood up and bent down to personally take the divine fruit on top of Yan Yunbei's head. Yan Yunbei's chest was exposed in front of the two martial artists. At this moment, Yan Yunbei suddenly exploded. The dagger turned into a flood dragon and directly pierced from the throat to the head. It was as fast as lightning, making it impossible to dodge. Puchita Yi Linshin's sword pierced through Gongyang Wanluan's heart. With a roll, he flashed behind Gongyang Wanluan. At this moment, Yan Yunbei flicked the dagger in his hand. His godhead flew out and was caught by Yi Linshin. It was too fast. It was so fast that no one could react. In the entire camp, no one thought that the two soldiers would suddenly explode and attack the commander. Swished up, the two of them continuously shuttled through the crowd, dodging and shifting, changing their positions. Their speed was as fast as lightning, hoping to confuse so many divine shrine experts. Boom, boom, whoosh, whoosh. The 1,000 or so priests did not seem to care about the lives of the soldiers underground. Their divine power poured out and smashed toward the two of them. Wherever they passed, the area within a radius of several hundred meters became an abyss. The army was in complete chaos. The deputy marshals did not dare to let the two of them escape. In any case, the marshal was the son of the manor head. If he was assassinated just like that, if they could not catch the culprit, they would all be buried with him. Therefore, the spirit of "die for me" was carried forward in their army. Catch the two of them. They are the ones who killed the marshal. If you catch or kill any one of them, you will be rewarded with 10,000 mid-grade divine crystals and be promoted to a major. The deputy marshal roared in anger. He could not wait to kill Yan Yunbei and Yi Linshin. The 1,000 or so priests in the sky forcefully attacked the two of them. How could they still care about the army? The army became more and more chaotic. The direction Yan Yunbei and Yi Linshin escaped to was suddenly empty. The army was crowded and scattered. They did not want to be killed by their own people before they could stop Yan Yunbei. Boom! The energy smashed a big hole in the ground. Yan Yunbei and Yi Linshin were sent flying at the same time. Their bodies were unstable, and they immediately fell into a dangerous situation. The deputy marshal led a large group of captains to suppress the army and rush toward Yan Yunbei. In order to give the prefecture master an explanation, these deputy marshals and captains actually put the army of 100,000 under the butcher's knife. Gu Qingyu and the others were like a sharp knife that tore through the defense and killed with all their might. At the southeast corner, the rebel army was suddenly in chaos. People kept falling down and died silently as if they were possessed. Shino and Qingyan released the poisonous gas, and Xia Ziluo fanned the flames. The poisonous gas continued to rush into the depths. Most importantly, The two of them took the initiative to remind the rebel army, causing them to go even crazier. They were in a mess, and the army's attack formation was scattered. "We will release the poison," Shino Qingyan shouted. Shi and Xia Zi Luo each held an antidote in their mouths and raised their swords to kill. The Black Moon County's territory was in chaos. The insane sect was crazily killing, and the king's soldiers were invincible. In the end, even the outer sect disciples rushed out and cooperated with them to kill the ordinary soldiers. Gu Qingyu and the others not only wanted to kill, they also wanted to snatch the godheads. However, the Kiliarchs were still Kiliarchs. They quickly gathered together. 300 men killed one person. Moreover, they were all priests. The Guangzong would definitely be at a disadvantage. Lu Outyan and Xia Qiue shouted at the same time, "Retreat! Retreat to the Guangzong immediately! Since you have come out, don't think about going back. Today I will kill all of you." The vice commander's eyes were red. Tonight was too miserable. 100,000-strong army was beaten so badly by a few people from the Guangzong. Even the commander was killed. When they returned, they did not know how the chief would punish them. The death penalty might be a light punishment. How could they not hate the Guangzong?